Hey guys, what's going on? It's Roth and Joshua here with a little bit of exciting DC news. So, Warner Brothers, for lack of a better term, blinked first, right? So they were both, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, was on the same date as Captain America 3, which is on...
It was going to be Marvel versus DC, and they moved off.
But they decided we can love them all, because they moved Batman v Superman months earlier, which is a little bit surprising, to March 25th.
Which is good. We get it earlier.
Yeah, a little
I'm
bit
not mad
earlier.
at that.
A little bit earlier, March 25th, 2016. Let's talk a little bit about why we think they did that. Why do you think they moved the date? Because it's been a big question. Like, people have been wondering, was Marvel or DC going to move first?
Because originally they had a different date, then they moved it on to Warner Brothers moved their Batman vs. Superman on the Captain America 3 day, I think hoping for Marvel to move, and they didn't.
Yeah.
So now, DC, they're like, well, I think Batman vs. Superman would have actually won the box office, because no matter how great Captain America 3 is, people want to see Batman vs. Superman because they've never seen that before. Whereas we've gotten a bunch of other Captain America movies. But I think they thought, well, Marvel's not moving, and we want as big a box office as possible. This has to be a hit. We gotta move.
And I think that that's a fair point. I mean, look, we don't know who would have won the box office, but it's a fair assessment to say that
Batman vs. Superman.
It's a fair assessment to say that it would take the box office. But if it didn't, if for some reason it did not, what an embarrassment! Like, if Batman v Superman won the box office, look, Marvel could be like, okay, sure, I mean, for all of those reasons, but if Cap 3 did, I mean, what an embarrassment, first and foremost.
Yeah.
And second of all, I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that Guardians of the Galaxy, which, as everyone has been saying forever, was Marvel's sort of biggest risk movie to date, did huge numbers this past weekend, did far better than expected. I think that there's probably a little bit of trepidation going like, look, these guys are like pumping out great movies every single time. We don't really want to compete on this date. And to your point, like, even if they were going to win it, they'll get even more numbers if they're not competing that weekend.
So right off after Guardians...
And we love them all. We're not taking sides here, by the way.
Of course not. But of course, right after Guardians' success, when people are still buzzing about Guardians, they're like, well, here's what we're going to do with our movies. And they moved, but in order to sort of, and we'll talk about these in a second, they announced a slate of 9 other DC movies. We'll talk about those in a second.
Right.
What those could be.
Which is basically a marketing ploy, right?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. Like, it's the same thing at Comic-Con. At Comic-Con, people were like, oh, I mean, Marvel really only showed Avengers and Ant-Man stuff and only really announced Guardians 2. But to me, it was a very smart move, very savvy move to do it that way, because the conversation became, we're excited about Avengers 2, we're going to talk about Ant-Man, and they sort of like pled their case for why it's going to be okay without Edgar Wright. But the real conversation was, wow, they have so much confidence in Guardians that they've already announced the date for Guardians 2. They didn't even announce the date for Doctor Strange yet, because the movie was opening that weekend. And so that extra boost of confidence and getting the conversation on Guardians and how good it is possibly helped the box office that weekend. It's the same thing for DC at Comic-Con. They sort of just teased you a little bit with that Wonder Woman outfit and with a little bit of a teaser from Batman v Superman. So the conversation was on that. We're excited for this movie. That's what they wanted the conversation to be about. Today, what they did was they got us off the fact that they, quote, blinked. Now we got to talk about the fact that they've announced 10 million other movies, right? So the whole conversation isn't going to be dominated by, oh, they blinked first. Now we've got to go, wow, they've made a really bold move and announced how many movies?
9 movies. And then
in
2
addition to Batman v Superman.
Yes. So 9 untitled DC movies.
I keep interrupting.
Yeah, that's okay. And then 2 untitled WB event movies, which we think are going to be the new Harry Potter movies. But let's not talk about that, because that's its own conversation in itself.
I want to talk about that. We won't. Yeah, we think it's probably going to be Fantastic Beasts and then a sequel to that.
Yeah. So you really have to think that, you know, these movies, that they've got an idea of like what they want them to be and everything. And it's really funny if you look at it. Here's all of Marvel's dates. Here's all of DC's dates. They very carefully avoided all of the Marvel dates.
Yeah, and I mean, look, this is really a new business model in a way, to be announcing films this far out, you know. We knew that Marvel sort of had this master crazy plan, and there's this legend and lore has it that there's this map in Kevin Feige's office of all of these different films and planned out for 20 years potentially.
You say business plan. But is it, or is it like a pissing contest? Am I allowed to say pissing contest?
Yeah.
It's a pissing contest.
I don't actually know, but you just did. So anyway.
Like 3 times. No, yeah. So, because Marvel, they have the credibility to do that. When you see them put out a slate of 9 movie dates over the next 6 years, you're like, okay, I can see that because look how well they've done. DC, they don't really have, enough to back that up.
Well, and it's interesting to think about what these movies could be, right? Because there was that reportedly leaked DC slate that came out, which only had 6 additional movies. There was Batman v Superman, 6 additional movies. Now we know that those dates are all off, right? Because they don't match the dates that were released today. And it's more movies than was on that slate. But we don't know that some of those titles still may be things that we'll see. We may see Shazam. Shazam with The Rock attached has been talked about for years. So it's possible that that could come through. It's likely that we would see another Batman standalone film. It's definitely we're going to see Justice. Why are they doing Dawn of Justice League and they're not going to do Justice League?
I made a list
of
9 potential movies, and we'll be speculating about this for years. But let's just go. Batman vs Superman. We already know we're getting.
Okay.
Shazam with The Rock, because
Yes.
he made that little statement that we could get that. Sandman with Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yes.
Justice League, because that's what they're all building towards. It's
Right.
Dawn of Justice, after all, right? Wonder Woman. That makes sense to get that. Jason Momoa, I think he'd get an Aquaman movie if he performs well.
That's been
If he's like
rumored.
the Hulk-like character that everybody loves, like in Avengers, he could do that and spin off his own movie. Superman sequel, Man of Steel 2. A Batman movie, I feel like that's a must, right? And then to combat Guardians of the Galaxy, I think they do Legion of Superheroes.
Okay.
Which is a spacefaring thing from the future, and they can come to the present, and all these aliens and weird people.
There's also talk about a Dark Justice League movie. There was early rumors of a Green Lantern and Flash matchup, although
That sounds weird.
that sounds a little less unlikely of all the ones that were on that original slate. But you never know.
I would love another Green Lantern movie. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like that might be box office poison for them.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think that that's a potentially great list, but we don't know. And I think that probably some of this is a little bit fluid because here's the thing. They're going to see which characters are standouts in Dawn of Justice. They're going to see what the appetite is, who people want to see more of. It's really funny to me if it's like 5 movies down the line that we get Man of Steel 2. That's kind of insane. Poor Henry Cavill.
It's waiting in the wings.
But I think they are going to be looking to what the appetite is after this to see who's going to spin off into their own movies. And then, like we said, there's going to be Sandman and things that aren't attached to this universe. And here's the other thing. Warner Brothers isn't solely dependent on DC movies. So this slate could very much change or go away in 2 years if it's not working out the way they want it to. They're releasing this now, I think, a little bit as a marketing ploy to kind of get off the topic that they've moved their date from Marvel's date, and also to say, look, we have got just as much of a plan as Marvel does, but we'll see how it all pans out, because if it doesn't work out for them, they have plenty more to draw on. Plenty more, including Fantastic Beasts.
I'm upset we didn't get our Marvel versus DC showdown, but we'll see. It looks like we have a lot of other things come up.
Well, actually, I'm glad that we get to love it all. I think there's enough arguing and enough wars already on the internet. Let's all love all of these properties together. Those are some of our thoughts. Let us know yours in the comments below. Are you excited about the change? Are you excited to be getting Batman v Superman early? Let us know. And for all things Marvel and DC, keep it locked right here to IGN.